They told you that you were special. They told you that you were perfect. They told you that you were the chosen one, destined for greatness, the pride of the family. And you believed them. Why wouldn't you? After all, you were getting all the praise, all the attention, all the love. While your siblings were criticized, ignored, or punished, you were celebrated. You were the golden child. But what if I told you that being the golden child was actually the cruelest form of psychological warfare you could ever experience? What if I told you that all that praise, all that special treatment, all that conditional love was systematically destroying your soul from the inside out? I need to share something with you that's going to shatter everything you thought you knew about family dynamics, about love, about what it means to be the favored child. What I'm about to reveal will explain why so many people who were praised as children grow up feeling empty, anxious, and lost. Why so many high achievers battle crippling imposter syndrome. Why so many successful people feel like they're living someone else's life. You see, I was the golden child. I was the one who could do no wrong in my father's eyes. I was the obedient, disciplined, perfect son who never caused trouble, never spoke back, never stepped out of line. From the outside, it looked like I had won the family lottery. But inside, I was dying. Inside, I was becoming nothing more than a hollow shell, performing a role that was slowly suffocating my authentic self. If you've ever felt like you're living a lie, if you've ever felt like you don't know who you really are beneath all the achievements and accolades, if you've ever felt like you're trapped in a golden cage of expectations, then you need to hear this. Hit that subscribe button right now, like this video, and tell me in the comments, have you ever felt like the person everyone else sees isn't the real you? Because what I'm about to share with you is going to change how you understand your entire life story. Let me tell you what really happens when you become the golden child. Let me tell you about the psychological destruction that occurs when a child is chosen to be the family's shining star, their trophy, their proof to the world that they're good parents. Because the golden child isn't loved, they're exploited. They're not cherished, they're used. They're not special, they're enslaved. Here's the truth that no one wants to acknowledge. The golden child is the most abused child in the narcissistic family system. Not physically, but psychologically. Not obviously, but insidiously. The golden child's abuse is hidden behind praise, disguised as love, wrapped in the illusion of favoritism. But it's abuse nonetheless. And in many ways, it's more damaging than what happens to the scapegoat, because at least the scapegoat knows they're being mistreated. When you're chosen as the golden child, you become an extension of the narcissistic parent's ego. You're not seen as a separate human being with your own thoughts, feelings, desires, and dreams. You're seen as a reflection of their greatness, a living testament to their superior parenting, a trophy they can display to prove their worth to the world. Your achievements become their achievements. Your successes become their successes. Your entire identity becomes a projection of their unfulfilled fantasies. But here's where it gets truly insidious. The love you receive as the golden child isn't love at all. It's conditional approval based on your ability to maintain the image they've created for you. You're loved for what you do, not for who you are. You're praised for your performance, not for your essence. You're valued for your ability to make them look good, not for your inherent worth as a human being. This conditional love becomes a drug that you become addicted to from a very young age. Every time you excel, every time you achieve, every time you make them proud, you get a hit of validation that temporarily fills the void where your authentic self should be. But like any drug, you need more and more of it to feel normal. You become a validation junkie, constantly seeking external approval to feel worthy of existence. The golden child learns very quickly that their worth is tied to their ability to be perfect. Perfect grades, perfect behavior, perfect image, perfect compliance with the family's expectations. There's no room for mistakes, no room for exploration, no room for authentic self-expression. You learn to suppress any part of yourself that doesn't fit the golden child image, because showing your true self might risk losing the conditional love that you've become dependent on. This is how your soul gets destroyed slowly, systematically, and completely. Every time you suppress an authentic emotion, every time you perform instead of being genuine, every time you choose the safe path over the one your heart wants to take, you're killing another piece of your true self. You're trading your authenticity for approval, your freedom for security, your soul for survival. The golden child develops what psychologists call a false self, a carefully constructed persona designed to meet everyone else's expectations, while the true self goes into hiding, sometimes so deep that it takes decades to find again. This false self becomes so convincing, so polished, so perfect that even you start to believe it's who you really are. But deep down, in the quiet moments when no one is watching, you know something is missing. You know you're living a lie. This is why so many golden children grow up to be high achievers who feel empty inside. This is why so many successful people struggle with imposter syndrome, feeling like frauds despite their accomplishments. This is why so many people who seem to have everything together battle anxiety, depression, and a persistent sense that they're not enough, because they've been conditioned to believe that their worth depends on external achievements rather than their inherent value as human beings. The golden child trap is particularly cruel because it's disguised as privilege. From the outside, it looks like you're the lucky one. Your siblings resent you for getting all the attention and praise. Other people think you have it easy. Society tells you that you should be grateful for having supportive parents who believe in you. But what they don't see is the prison you're living in, a golden cage where every bar is made of expectation. Every lock is made of conditional love, and the key to freedom feels impossibly out of reach. Let me share with you what this looked like in my own life. As the golden child, I was never allowed to express anger, frustration, or any emotion that might disturb the family's perfect image. When I showed any sign of authentic emotional response, I was quickly shut down, punished, or made to feel ashamed. I learned to become emotionally numb, to disconnect from my feelings, to live entirely in my head where I could maintain the illusion of control. I was expected to be the peacekeeper, the one who held the family together, the one who made everyone else feel good about themselves. I wasn't allowed to have needs of my own because my job was to meet everyone else's needs. I wasn't allowed to fail because my failure would reflect badly on the family. I wasn't allowed to be vulnerable because vulnerability was seen as weakness. And the golden child couldn't be weak. The pressure was constant and crushing. Every decision I made was scrutinized through the lens of how it would reflect on the family. Every achievement was claimed as proof of my parents' superior parenting. Every moment of struggle was hidden or minimized because the golden child couldn't be seen as imperfect. I was living my life not for myself, but as a performance for an audience that would never be satisfied. This is what destroys the golden child's soul, the constant performance, the relentless pressure to be something you're not, the gradual erosion of your authentic self until you no longer know where the performance ends and you begin. You become so disconnected from your true feelings, desires, and needs that you lose touch with who you really are underneath all the expectations. The golden child learns to read other people's emotions obsessively while completely ignoring their own. They become hypervigilant about maintaining their image while being completely unconscious about their authentic needs. They develop an external locus of control, constantly looking outside themselves for validation and direction because they've never been taught to trust their inner compass. But here's what's even more tragic. The golden child often doesn't even realize they're trapped until much later in life. They think they're living the good life. They think they're the lucky one. They think their family dynamics are normal because it's all they've ever known. It often takes years, sometimes decades, for the golden child to wake up and realize that the cage they're living in isn't freedom. It's a sophisticated form of emotional imprisonment. This awakening usually comes in one of several ways. Sometimes it happens when the golden child tries to make a decision that goes against the family's expectations and experiences the full force of their conditional love being withdrawn. Sometimes it happens when they achieve everything they thought they wanted and still feel empty inside. Sometimes it happens when they start their own family and realize they don't know how to have authentic relationships because they've never learned to be authentic themselves. For me, the awakening came gradually through a series of realizations that my entire identity was built on meeting other people's expectations rather than my own authentic desires. I realized that I had become so good at performing the role of the perfect son that I had no idea who I actually was underneath the performance. I realized that my entire sense of self-worth was dependent on external validation, and without it, I felt completely lost and worthless. The process of breaking free from the golden child trap is perhaps one of the most difficult psychological journeys a person can undertake. It requires dismantling everything you thought you knew about yourself, questioning every achievement you thought was yours, and examining every relationship to see how much of it was based on your performance rather than your authentic self. You have to learn to disappoint people, something the golden child was never allowed to do. You have to learn to fail, something the golden child was never permitted to experience. You have to learn to be imperfect, something the golden child was taught was unacceptable. You have to learn to feel your emotions, something the golden child was trained to suppress. Most importantly, you have to learn to separate your worth from your achievements. You have to understand that you are valuable not because of what you do, but because of who you are. You have to reconnect with the authentic self that was buried under years of conditioning and performance. You have to grieve the childhood you never had, the one where you were loved unconditionally for who you were, not conditionally for what you accomplished. This process is terrifying because it means risking the loss of the conditional love that you've become dependent on. It means potentially facing rejection from the family system that created you. It means stepping into the unknown territory of authentic self-expression after years of living according to other people's scripts. But here's what I discovered on my journey from golden child to authentic human being. The freedom on the other side of this process is worth every moment of discomfort it takes to get there. When you finally break free from the golden cage, when you finally reconnect with your authentic self, when you finally learn to love yourself unconditionally, you discover a level of peace, joy, and fulfillment that no external achievement could ever provide. You learn what it feels like to make decisions based on your own values rather than other people's expectations. You learn what it feels like to have relationships based on authenticity rather than performance. You learn what it feels like to fail without your world falling apart. You learn what it feels like to be human rather than perfect. The golden child trap is one of the most sophisticated forms of psychological manipulation because it's disguised as love, wrapped in privilege, and reinforced by societal expectations of success and achievement. But underneath all that glittering exterior is a profound violation of a child's right to be authentic, to be imperfect, to be human. If you recognize yourself in this description, if you've been living your life as a performance rather than an authentic expression of who you are, if you've been seeking validation outside yourself because you never learned to validate yourself, then I want you to know that there is hope. There is a way out of the golden cage. There is a path back to your authentic self. But it requires courage, the courage to disappoint people who have come to expect your performance. It requires strength, the strength to withstand the withdrawal of conditional love when you stop meeting expectations. It requires patience, the patience to slowly rebuild your relationship with yourself after years of disconnection. Most importantly, it requires the willingness to grieve the childhood you never had, the parents you never had, the unconditional love you deserved but never received. Because until you grieve what you never had, you can't fully embrace what's possible. The golden child's journey is ultimately about reclaiming your soul, reconnecting with your authentic self, and learning to love yourself not for what you achieve, but for who you are. It's about breaking free from the golden cage and discovering that true freedom isn't about being perfect, it's about being real. Your soul wasn't destroyed, it was just buried under years of conditioning, expectations, and performance. But it's still there, waiting for you to remember who you really are underneath all the roles you've been playing. The question is, are you ready to start digging?